What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Leon Edwards has no plan to accept Colby Covington fight. Although UFC President Dana White dubbed Colby Covington the #1 contender at welterweight, Leon Edwards has no plans to accept the fight against the former two-time title challenger. After Edwards shot down a fight with Covington during his post-fight Octagon interview, Dana White revealed at the post-fight press conference that Covington was indeed next in line for a title shot. That didn't sit too well with the welterweight champ, who once again shot down talk of fighting Covington at the post-fight presser, saying that Chaos would have to earn a third crack at the belt. During an appearance on the MMA Hour this week, Edwards doubled down on his claim that Covington needs to earn a title shot.
It's like, it makes no sense, like, at all, you know, so yeah, let's see how it plays out. But like I said, he has to go out there and his way like I had to do. Hamza was been controversial for years. This is a guy that I got matched up with 3 times in a row. That I took the fight, you know, and he didn't take the fight, and then he's getting rewarded for not taking the fight. When it was me, I got removed out of rankings. Yes. You know, so mate, this Dana White privilege is there for real.
Interestingly enough, opening odds for the fight have Covington as a slight -135 favorite to Edwards plus 115 underdog status, according to betonline.ag. Of course, as many have pointed out, if Dana White and the UFC have their sights set on Covington getting the next crack at the title, there may be little that Edwards can do about it. Should he turn the fight down, the promotion could move on and create an interim title. While an interim title win could put Covington in title contention, he may not be willing to accept anything other than a title fight, creating quite the predicament at 170 pounds. The way Edwards sees things, there isn't a clear #1 contender in the division, and as a result, he believes he's earned the right to sit back and watch the rest of the division compete for the #1 contender spot. In addition to Covington, Gilbert Burns will likely campaign for a title shot with a win over Jorge Masvidal at UFC 287. At the same time, Belal Muhammad has been on an absolute tear and finds himself in the midst of a stunning win streak that saw him recently hand Sean Brady his first loss. With plenty of contenders floating around the top of the division, how do you see things playing out? Will the UFC ultimately get Edwards to accept the fight with Colby Covington, or will the controversial contender need to earn one more win before challenging for the belt? Drop your thoughts in the comments section down below. Big John McCarthy thinks Conor McGregor's time has come and gone. While Conor McGregor may not have the air of invincibility that once surrounded him, there's one thing that has kept the Irish star as one of the UFC's most relevant fighters: his star power. With 4 of the 5 best-selling UFC pay-per-view cards to his name, McGregor has ascended to a level of superstardom unlike anything the UFC has ever seen. Ahead of McGregor's highly anticipated return to the Octagon later this year, longtime referee Big John McCarthy believes the star power McGregor once possessed no longer exists. He spoke during a recent video explaining that everyone is replaceable, including McGregor.
There will be someone that takes the place of every person. Everybody is replaceable. I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. The moment you think you're irreplaceable is the moment you just made a mistake.
Yep.
Everybody is replaceable. Now, the person that replaces you might not be quite as good, but they're going to be good, and they're going to be able to replace you.
The way McCarthy sees things, the moment in time where McGregor stood atop the world as the biggest star in the history of MMA is long gone. Of course, with the Ultimate Fighter providing plenty of build-up to his return, McGregor could very well prove McCarthy wrong with another massive pay-per-view event against Michael Chandler. As UFC President Dana White famously stated many years ago, McGregor against anyone would do massive pay-per-view numbers because of how much attention the Irish superstar generates. Although he may no longer be on a massive win streak like he was during his ascension to the top of the fight game, fans and critics alike seem to be paying attention to McGregor ahead of his return, whether it's because they want him to win or because they want him to lose. Do you think McGregor's return fight does big pay-per-view numbers? Drop your predictions below. What's next for Kamaru Usman after UFC 286 loss? After dropping back-to-back losses to Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman doesn't seem to be going anywhere. During his post-fight Octagon interview, Usman stated the champ would see him again in the future, letting the world know that he has no plans of retiring despite his 36th birthday approaching. Given that Usman has already defeated many of the division's top contenders, many have wondered what the latest loss means for him. On one hand, it's extremely rare for fighters to match up 4 times. On the other hand, the first meeting between Usman and Edwards took place many years ago. leading many to wonder whether the UFC could look to match them up again in the future once Usman gets a couple of wins to his name. In the wake of the loss, many have begun to look at potential fights for Usman as he begins his journey back to title contention. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson was quick to throw his name in the hat, saying on Twitter that he would 100% be down for a fight with the former champ. From the sounds of things, a fight between the two may make sense given the rankings. With number 2 ranked Colby Covington poised for a title shot, number 3 ranked Khamzat Chimaev bound for 185, number 4 ranked Belal Muhammad on a collision course, with number 6 ranked Shavkat Rakhmonov and number 5 ranked Gilbert Burns all booked for fights, do you think that a fight between Usman and number 7 ranked Stephen Thompson makes sense for both men? Sound off below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Michael Bisping responds to commentary criticism. UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping received quite a bit of backlash in regards to his commentary work at UFC 286. According to critics and Justin Gaethje, Bisping was incredibly biased during the broadcast. As Gaethje alleged during his post-fight press conference, Bisping didn't deserve to be anywhere near the broadcasting booth. John Anik quickly threw his support behind his broadcast partner, saying that Bisping never goes into fights with any sort of preformed agenda. As Anik also pointed out, Bisping may have a better relationship with Kamaru Usman than he does with Leon Edwards, making his alleged bias towards the UK's own Rocky Edwards even more unfounded. After a fan defended Bisping's commentary work, the Count responded by addressing the criticism directly for the first time since the event. "I always only call it as I see it, and you have to celebrate the winner regardless of who it is. Can't be sad someone didn't win. Winner in all cases must be celebrated, and I have huge admiration and respect for Usman as a fighter and a person. A true gentleman." With many unhappy with the commentary work of Bisping, as well as Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan in recent years, who do you think should be handling broadcasting duties for the UFC? Sound off below. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have UFC fighters getting suspended for banned substances. It was reported earlier today that both UFC fighters Kyler Phillips and Darius Flowers have been suspended due to a failed urine test. They both tested positive for a banned substance called Ulsterine. It's also interesting to note that Sean O'Malley is also from the same gym as these guys, and he also tested positive for the same substance back in 2019. What do you guys think about all this? Fight community up in arms over Covington's title shot. After it was announced that Colby Covington would be getting the next crack at the title, the fight community was quick to weigh in. The man many believe to be the division's top contender, Belal Muhammad, went scorched earth on the UFC for giving the title fight to Covington after sitting out for a year.
I had more ranked wins than the champion. I had more ranked wins than the former champion. That wasn't rematches. I had more ranked wins than all these guys. And I had the fourth longest winning streak in history of the welterweight division. And I'm not being mentioned in the title contention. When Dana comes out and says Kobe's next for sure, it just doesn't make any sense.
Muhammad was not the only one upset over Covington getting the next crack at the title. Ahead of his UFC 287 showdown with Jorge Masvidal, Gilbert Burns also said that he hopes Covington does not get a crack at the title. Ariel Helwani also made an interesting point about Covington getting a title shot, saying that just because Covington was the backup fighter for the UFC 286 main event does not mean he's the #1 contender. As Helwani pointed out on Twitter after a rant on the MMA Hour, Sergey Pavlovich was the backup fighter for the Jones vs. Gane heavyweight title fight, but he isn't getting the next crack at the title.
Lost his 2 title fights, coming off 1 win over a year ago. And I hear, oh, he flew over and made weight, so he deserves it. Well, all right, it doesn't always work out like that. So are you telling me that if Anthony Smith made weight back in January, he was getting a title shot? He wasn't getting a title shot. He was not. The backup fighter isn't always the guy.
With plenty of unrest in the welterweight division, how do you see things playing out? Sound off in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. I think Edwards will lose the belt before Usman gets back to a championship fight. I saw that tap during the fight, but from that angle, I couldn't see anything he would be tapping to. He did tap 3 times quickly, but I don't think it was an actual tap of submission, but rather just involuntary action while he was moving around and working for position. I do understand if people see a tap as a tap, and that's it. I think Colby is just saying what Dana really wants to say but can't, which is why Dana gives him favoritism. Bilal was losing to Leon prior to the eye poke. He lost to Jeff Neal. I don't see him being champ anytime soon. Colby gets special treatment for being entertaining and bringing in more money, but he's one of the best at this time. And those were the top comments from yesterday's video. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out yesterday's video in case you missed it. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from all over the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.